Hi, I'm Samuel Prather. This is part 2 of how to program realistic sounding jazz drums. It is not impossible to do. We're going to go ahead and dive right in. If you haven't checked out the first part of this video, please do. It's not going to make very much sense unless you check that out also. Okay, so we've already made our different pockets and fills and layered them out into 7 different note lanes on our Reason drum kits. We've changed the mixer levels to sound a little bit more like jazz, and now we're going to start cutting together a performance that's going to sound more organic and more authentic. That's my main pocket. That's my second main pocket. So the first thing I'm going to do is just razor some random spots. If we did our job properly in the programming phase, then it doesn't matter because all of these should work over the whole thing. Now that I've razored everything, I'm just going to go back and mute one side or the other. Already sounding better. And because I muted instead of deleting, now I can go back and make a whole bunch of edits if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and mute these two and start thinking about these variations. Obviously I wouldn't do a whole song like that, but there's places for it. I went ahead and moved the soloist right above the drums so I could see clearly where the gaps are in the soloist playing. This is one of the things that I was talking about earlier in the first video about it being call and response. Jazz is about communication. So I don't want all of my variation to be right in the middle of the soloist ideas. I want my drummer to add variation in the places where there's not stuff already happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through and look at where there are gaps, and I'm just going to start cutting. This doesn't have to be precise, it can overlap a little bit, but I do want to make sure that I'm not overplaying. What I'm going to do is go ahead and mute everything. And only in the places where I want it am I going to unmute. And by the way, now I can unmute all of these lanes that I had muted before. That doesn't sound like a good fill for that spot, so I'm going to move on to the next one. That actually worked for me, so I'm going to go ahead and make space for it by getting rid of the other stuff around it. Alright, sounds like we could use a fill there. Try this one. Alright, remember that really nasty fill from before that we didn't want to use because it was too brash? Well, that sounds like just the place for it because of what the saxophone player is doing. The variation that I like to use the most is the one where I'm playing in 3 against 4, especially if it's a moment of tension. Once again, all this is going to be dictated by what the soloist is doing, and this is definitely something that you'll get a better handle for the more records that you listen to. Any fills that stick out too much, don't freak out. Most of the time you can just drop the velocity and that takes care of it. Now, let's say I love everything that I have down. I might want to simplify the information that I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the drum kits itself in the sequencer, and that will give me the option to merge note lanes on tracks. That will put everything neatly into one now that I've selected it. I want it to sound more like the drummer is in charge. I'm going to apply a groove to the channel with the drums on it. So I put it in B1, and then I'm going to go to Groove. The Groove Mixer, go to Bank B. I wanted nothing in there. That's why I went to B1. No presets. I'm just going to slide forward. So minus 20 clicks. All right, so obviously this was a lot of work. In real time, this might take me about 30 minutes to get to this point. The last thing I'm going to do to it before I show you what the final product is, or at least as far as I wanted to go today, I'm going to go ahead and pan the drums to one side, and I'm going to pan the saxophone to another side so that it sounds like those old jazz recordings. And I'm just going to put a little bit of reverb on all three. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. Hopefully I gave you something you can use on your own tracks today. And if I did, then please like the video, subscribe to my channel so you can know when we're coming out with new content. And lastly, go over to SamuelPrather.com if you want to sign up for my email list so you can come check me out live or get my new music. I'm Samuel Prather, and hopefully I gave you another reason to create.